I'm here with Anna Frola, and we're going to talk to her a little bit about the movie Malcolm X. How are you, Anna?
I'm great. How are you, Brittany?
Good. Thank you for being here with us today. I know
My
you
pleasure.
always have some great responses, and I enjoy having you here, so
It's
thank
wonderful
you.
to be here.
I wanted to start out by asking you about the director, Spike Lee. What can we expect from him in this movie?
Spike Lee is a fantastic independent director. He's one of the first major black directors. I mean, for most of Hollywood's history, it has kind of been a white boy's game.
Right, yeah.
And he has come along and made his mark on cinema. He makes really important films. He's always trying to explore serious issues. He wants to sort of reach the highest common denominator and get us to think. He's made some amazing documentaries. He made some of the really compelling documentaries after Katrina. And he made a series of 4 right after, and then he came back 5 years later and did another one to see how Reconstruction had gone. And he's continually trying to remind us of these issues that we often forget as we go about our lives. He's one movie that I don't think gets a lot of attention from his is Inside Man. It's just really fantastic, but he's always trying to bring racial issues to the forefront as sort of jumping off points for discussion.
Right, yeah, I think that's really neat. I actually saw his Katrina one, and it did kind of make you realize, you know, it was so far after the event, and you kind of forgot about it, and then you saw that a lot of it wasn't repaired or anything. So I think it's neat that he kind of brings that element into the
Yes, he does. I went to New Orleans 3 years after and was shocked at the state of disrepair that some of the areas were in.
Yeah,
so we
definitely.
need to keep talking about it.
Yeah, I agree. So he's known for movies, like you were saying, that examine race relations and things like that. How do you think he does that with Malcolm X?
He does some really neat things with cinematography that makes Malcolm X an American story. One of the things that stood out to me is his use of red, white, and blue. There's some version of red, white, and blue in every scene, and sometimes it's more muted, and other times it stands out more, but it's always about how grappling with our racial history isn't an issue for one race. It's for all of us. We all have to think about the ways in which our past informs our future. And he does it really beautifully.
Yeah, I agree. That's also something neat to look for, the red, white, and blue, you know, now that you've pointed that out for people who watch this movie. I think that's a fascinating thing to look for.
Well, he starts with this image of the flag, the American flag, and then it starts burning into the X. And then you keep seeing our American flag colors repeated over and over and over.
Right, that's really neat. So what kind of movie is this?
We call movies about actual people biopics, biographical pictures, but he blends in documentary footage, which is really powerful. So he's telling a story that comes from, of course, a source from a live person. Alex Haley's autobiography of Malcolm X was compiled from a series of interviews with Malcolm X before he was killed. So he takes the man, he takes an actual life, and we see him as a human, but we also see him as a very needed voice at a particular point of history.
Right, I agree. That's a fascinating answer. So speaking of him, the 45th anniversary of Malcolm X's death was actually last Sunday. So why is this an important film for students to be paying attention to, especially right now at this point in time?
Well, 45 years later, we still haven't solved the ways that we deal with race in this country.
Right.
And the movie wants to draw our attention to the ways in which we still are struggling to overcome a racist past. There's still a Ku Klux Klan that's active. After the election of President Obama, there was actually a spike in white supremacist hate groups.
Oh, wow.
And so we still need to deal very seriously with the issue of race in this country. And one of the ways he does it is he takes, we call it found footage. He takes actual documentary footage. And there's this section in the middle that is so painful to watch. We see the riots in Birmingham. We see the students in Greensboro sit down and refuse to move from the lunch counter. And it's really painful to watch. You know, I own a dog that's part shepherd, and when you see those shots of the shepherds that are trained to attack black people, it's just horrendous. It's horrific to watch, but it's an important part of our past that we need to grapple with. If we
Yeah.
can't, I mean, if we love our country, we have to be able to look back in order to improve our future and our present.
Right. Yeah, that's a very, very good point. What does this film aim to tell us about our country's history? I know you were talking a little bit about how we kind of haven't moved so far as we think we have, but what do you think it aims to tell us?
I think it aims to tell us a story of a voice who still remains controversial for some. And Malcolm X was such a powerful figure. There's that great scene at the police station where he has the whole entire crowd behind him, and then one gesture, and they all disperse. I mean, how powerful was he? So it's an amazing story of a really powerful person. I think also at this point, when we talk about religious issues, of course, Malcolm X converted to Islam in prison, and when we talk about Islam in this country, there are a lot of prominent voices in the media that are kind of in hysterics about it, and we need to do better. I think our generation, your generation, we need to have better conversations that are being had.
That makes a lot of sense. What is the main lesson in history that students should take from this film? Is it kind of what you're saying about, you know, just...
I think the main thing is that we need to think about the way that history doesn't happen in one linear line. It keeps cycling over and over again. And so what's happening now doesn't happen in a vacuum. We have to look back and see how events in our past have shaped the conditions that we're in right now. So we can continue to talk through them. Good films make us ask questions, and this film is definitely one that makes us ask questions, makes us want to look deeper into issues, makes us want to look deeper into our history.
Definitely.
And it's beautiful. I mean, Spike Lee makes beautiful films. He's got such great camera angles, and like the issue of the repeated motif of the red, white, and blue. It's
so creative. It really is. So we were just talking about this. What visual cues do we get about the progression of Malcolm X? I know there's a lot of kind of visual things that it's hard to pick up on if you just saw it for the first time, but if you kind of explain to us what we can look for, then we'll be able to see.
Well, one thing that we can look for is the changes in his hair.
Okay.
Anytime he changes his ideology or makes a progressive move, he changes something about his head.
That's
either something on his head or having his head shaved. So it's this sort of symbolic of changing the outside of the head to represent a change inside the head.
That's funny too, because I feel like a lot of people are like that. You know, you need a change or you have a change and you go get a new haircut or new hair color or something. I think that's interesting.
We can relate to that.
Yeah. What role do you believe the flashbacks in this movie play? Are they connected to the current events in the film, or what do you think they have to do with the whole theme?
Well, there are flashbacks both to actual historical footage, and there are also his own flashbacks to growing up and having his house bombed by the Ku Klux Klan and having other encounters with the Ku Klux Klan. And the fact that, and also it starts with the Rodney King beatings that happened a year before the film was made. So Spike Lee is asking us to make connections between this racial violence from the past and think about even recent past, 1991. And that's the main thing.
Okay, well, thank you. Are the events in the film based on true events, or are they mostly dramatized? I was wondering that the whole time I was seeing some of the parts.
I think they are mostly based on real events. Honestly, I have not yet read the autobiography, but right before I came here, a colleague was telling me that the person in the Baines, the character in the prison who helps him convert to Islam, didn't really exist. And I think sometimes filmmakers have to embellish these details so that you can make explicit. You can have conversations about Islam instead of just the cerebral process of thinking about it.
Right.
So there are those sort of aspects.
So it seems like Denzel Washington is really true to his character in this. I think he did a wonderful job in this film. Do you think he was the perfect role for it? How did you feel about his performance?
I think every performance by Denzel Washington is amazing, and this is no exception. I mean, he gets the cadence, he gets the look, he gets the posture. He's perfect.
Yeah, he really does look exactly like Malcolm X. If you put up a picture of them, the glasses, I feel like even his facial expressions, he really, really got into it.
The way he holds his mouth, yes.
Yeah.
Everything. He's perfect.
Well, thank you so much. You had a lot of interesting things and some things students can look for. So thank you as always. It was wonderful talking with you.
Oh, it's great to be here. I really enjoy being here.
Thank you.